Coming to get you, Bobber.
We Summon the Darkness is a 2019 horror movie directed by Mark Myers, and it stars Alexandra Daddario, Maddie Hassan and Johnny Knoxville. So we've got a surprise release during this pandemic, this movie called We Summon the Darkness. Now, I didn't know anything about this film. Somebody told me to watch the trailer for it. I said no, because it's got Alexandra Daddario in it and it is a horror movie, and I absolutely love Alexandra Daddario, so I decided not to watch the trailers for this and just watch it blind. Three best friends embark on a road trip to a heavy metal show where they bond with three aspiring musicians and head off to one of the girls' country homes for an after party. This is going to be a spoiler review, guys, so word of warning before you watch the rest of this video. Now, I didn't watch the trailers for it, like I said, and I also didn't read the synopsis, and I'm glad I didn't read the synopsis or just a little plot tagline there, because straight away it tells me what's about to happen. These girls take the boys away to one of the girls' country houses. This tells me straight away that the girls are the bad guys in this one. That might not be the case, but just by reading the plot line, that tells me straight away that the girls are up to something. And when I watched this film, at the beginning I thought those girls are a little shifty, and I automatically thought the girls were up to something. I don't know if it was intentional, but I think they tried to make it look as if we were not supposed to know who the bad guys were. Was it the girls? Was it the boys? We just weren't supposed to know, I'm assuming. But the story told me straight away that the girls were always the bad people at the beginning. And can I just say, I know that more than one company are involved in making movies these days, but this movie had lots of companies involved. The film was set in 1988. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because heavy metal was big back then, and maybe Satan worshippers were big back then. I'm not too sure. That might be the reason for setting it in 1988. But if they set it in 2019 or 2020 or whatever, I don't think it would have added or taken anything away from the film, because we could have set it in any time period and wouldn't have made a difference to me anyway. But it didn't feel like it was set in 1988. I know it was set in 1988, but it didn't feel like 1988. Half the girls and half the people in the movie were wearing clothes you would wear these days. I know that we're wearing 70s and 80s clothes these days anyway, but it just didn't feel 80s, it didn't look 80s, it didn't have that 80s aesthetic to it. So setting it in 2019 wouldn't have made a difference. I also do remember watching parts of the movie thinking, I don't think that existed in 1988, and that's nitpicking, I know, but there was, for example, there was a shed in the background in the garden that I don't think existed in 1988, that type of shed. I think that was a recent kind of shed. So I know they make mistakes, and I know it wasn't a high budget movie, but little things like that might annoy people. Not me. Well, it kind of did, but it might annoy some other people. When it comes to the cast, I really like the cast, and I recognise some of their faces. I know one of the boys is from Alita Battle Angel. Another one of the boys is from, is it The Good Neighbour? With James Caan. He was in that. He's a really good actor, that boy. And he was also recently in Escape Room as well. So he's a good actor. Obviously, I love Alexandra Daddario. So the cast was great. Alexandra Daddario, she's 30, she was probably 33 when she filmed this movie, and she's playing a teenager, and she does look like a teenager. She never ages, that girl. You know, since the Texas Chainsaw was the first movie that I saw her in, she just looks the exact same age, but she's a great actress. So the cast was great. Johnny Knoxville had a cameo role in it as well. He plays Alexandra Daddario's dad. He's got a small role, and although you don't see him a lot in the movie, he does play a pivotal role in the film because he's the one that's orchestrating this whole thing. I know the plot synopsis didn't really tell you a lot, but basically the movie's about these three girls who want to kill people, and they're using Satan as an excuse. They're pretending they're rockers, these heavy death metal worshippers, so that when these people die, they blame Satan. And Johnny Knoxville was one of the priests, and everybody wants to flock to him for forgiveness or for help because everybody's dying, and he's basically taking their money, and that's how he stays rich. And that itself, the story behind him being rich and using that money for himself, is a story in its own. They didn't explore that. I wouldn't have minded if they did explore that, but they didn't explore that enough. I don't think it was the type of movie to explore that type of thing. But if they wanted to extend it, they could have used that plot to maybe broaden the story itself, but they didn't do that. I didn't mind. I did mention the movie didn't feel like an 80s movie, but what I did like about it was the setting. There was two types of settings, and two types of settings that I do like in horror movies. One is a road movie. I love road horror for some reason. There's something about the open road, and even though it's so open, it still feels isolated because you're stuck in a car, for example. And that's what the first part of the movie felt like. It was going to be like this road horror movie. And I liked that aspect because the three girls were on the road, and then these three boys were passing them in their van, and they splashed them with this chocolate milkshake. And I thought this is going to be like a chase movie on the road. It didn't turn out to be like that, but if it did, I wouldn't have minded it because I do like that. But then when we did get to the final setting, the main setting, I also liked that as well. It was also, it felt like an isolated movie again, because these girls took the boys to a mansion. It looks like a mansion anyway, a big house in the countryside. And again, I do like that type of movie where they set it in one place. And even though we're 20-30 minutes into the movie, we're already at the final location of the movie. I do like that aspect as well. I'm sorry guys, I don't know if you can hear, but I've got a helicopter above me for some reason. I don't know why. We're during a pandemic here, so I'm loving it because there's not a lot of planes passing by. And lo and behold, I click film and there's a helicopter above me. The decision making in this film can infuriate people. Again, I don't mind decision makings in films because they're just films at the end of the day. But there's a lot of decisions that these characters make that are really dumb and really bad. Dumb and bad. And I wouldn't personally make these decisions myself, and as a filmmaker I wouldn't make these decisions because I know that it would annoy the audience. But there is some things that they do in this film that are really dumb, and things that you just wouldn't do in the real world. And I know it's to keep the movie going, because if you'd done the right thing, then the movie would only last 25 minutes. But there is other things that you could do to replace the silly things that they do with things that are more believable. So although the story was actually quite okay, the decision making in the film was quite off-putting. And even though I did like the story itself, as the story unfolded, it got a little bit boring. I was excited for the first half of the movie because I didn't know what to expect. There was a part where they were playing Never Would I Ever, I think that's what they call it in the US, and they were doing a drinking game where never would I ever do this, do that, and they would take a drink if they had done it. And there was one of the questions was, never have I ever drugged someone's drink, and then the three girls drank. It was quite a tense moment. It was probably the most intense moment of the movie, and the boys were all laughing. One of them was already knocked out, and the other two boys were laughing like, oh, why would you do that? But then those boys keeled over and they got knocked out. So that was the most intense part of the movie. But after that, we knew what was going to unfold. We knew how it was going to play out. And I think that's where it got a little bit boring because it was very predictable. Overall, guys, it was an okay movie. It was nothing groundbreaking. It was a decent watch. I did watch it to the very end. It kept me watching to the end. But overall, it did get a little bit boring. It's not a movie that I would watch again, but I am glad I did see it because it was an okay horror movie. Have you seen We Some in the Darkness, guys? Have you seen any movies like it? I know there are similar movies to this, maybe with some heavy metal, but leave your comments down below. Let me know if you liked the movie first of all, and also leave me recommendations for movies like this, like heavy metal horror movies. I know there was one I've seen a few years ago, The Devil's Candy, which was pretty good, but leave some recommendations down below for me, guys. As always, thanks a lot for watching, thanks for subscribing. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.